Okay, good morning. Thanks to everybody for joining us. I'm Allison Slack. I'm the manager for manufacturing strategic initiatives at FuzeHub. FuzeHub is a not-for-profit organization that connects New York's small and mid-sized manufacturing companies to the resources, programs, and expertise that they need for things like technology commercialization, innovation, and business growth. We help companies navigate New York's robust network of industry experts at different university research centers, incubators, economic development organizations, manufacturing extension partnership centers, and other providers. FuzeHub is the statewide New York Manufacturing Extension Partnership Center, and we are supported by Empire State Development's Division of Science, Technology, and Innovation, known as NYSTAR. Today we're here to tell you about NYSTAR's program of New York State Certified Business Incubators and Innovation Hotspots. New York State, specifically NYSTAR, provides financial support to about 30 incubators across the state. And that support allows them to serve more startup companies with more services. They provide things like physical space for young companies, access to capital, shared administrative staff, mentoring, sometimes prototype development and technical services, networking, etc. 10 of those incubators, one in each region of New York, are what we call innovation hotspots, and they have greater responsibilities for coordinating regional entrepreneurial ecosystems, and they can also offer certain tax benefits to the startups they serve. Overall, in the most recent year measured, these state-supported incubators were able to assist 260 companies, resulting in the creation of 285 jobs. Today we have 5 of those incubators and innovation hotspots on the webinar to present to you. They're from all around the state, and they're going to be telling you about the kinds of companies they've been able to help, the assistance they can provide, and the kinds of opportunities they may present for your companies. And we'll take each of them in turn, but at any time, participants can submit questions through the GoToWebinar control panel. There's a little questions tab, and we'll keep track of those and have some time for Q&A at the end. So with that, our first presenter is going to be Kathy Durden. She's the Executive Director of the Central New York Biotech Accelerator in the Syracuse region. Kathy?
Good morning. This is Kathy Durden, and hopefully my voice will last through the presentation. My lovely grandchildren shared their germs with me this weekend. So I'm the Executive Director at the Central New York Biotech Accelerator, which we call CNYBAC. And it's located in Syracuse, New York, in an Eds and Meds area where there are several hospitals and several universities and colleges in close proximity. Next slide. So CNYBAC is operated by Upstate Medical University. It's our academic medical center here in Central New York. And we have close ties to several ecosystem partners, such as SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry, who was a co-founder of the Biotech Accelerator, SUNY Oswego, Syracuse University, and many, many other education, support service, and business development organizations. Our infrastructure includes 7 labs, and we allow those to be licensed in part or in whole. For instance, we found that many startups couldn't afford and really didn't need a 900 square foot lab. So we developed what we call a collaboration lab model. It is a first come, first serve space selection process where the client pays only the physical space they select within the lab, which they share with other clients. And this model has worked so well that 3 of our 7 labs are collaboration labs. We currently provide infrastructure to a virtual client, which we hope to expand our virtual client occupancy, 8 on-site clients, and an anchor tenant, the Department of Pathology. We have 1 vacant lab left, and we have pod space available. Our pods are admin spaces. They contain 3 desks within a pod, and all of our license fees include parking and Wi-Fi, and our fees are posted at cnybac.com. Clients also gain access to shared equipment within our facility, or they can schedule to utilize core facilities that are located within upstate. And then we can also provide matching assistance and coordinate meetups with basic science, clinical faculty. If they're looking for graduate student interns, they need a principal investigator for a clinical trial, or maybe they need a pilot study and they need simulation environment facilities. We have a phase 1 unit and a clinical research unit and several certified clinical research coordinators. CMYBAC is a NISTAR certified business incubator, and we are located within a recently designated New York State Opportunity Zone, providing tax benefits to investors. We're also a Hotspot partner with the Tech Garden, and some of our labs are designated as Startup New York allocated space. Next slide. Our mission is to provide services, mentorship, and education, as well as licensing lab space to biotech clients and customers. We have steadily increased the number of service providers and mentors in our networks, and we maintain a listserv that we use to send out event announcements. Through our Syracuse Innovation Connectors, our innovation ecosystem, we promote each other's programs, and we collaboratively support an annual 2-part funding roadmap series that we hold in the fall in September and October. And for any events held at CMYBAC, our 3rd floor includes a state-of-the-art 250-seat theater, which is built to TED specs, so we can also do TED Talks within our theater. Through our MedTech Incubator Plus program, clients receive free MedTech membership. We also provide clients with fee-waived registrations to our annual concept commercialization boot camp, which we developed in collaboration with NextCore and the New York State Science and Technology Law Center. This boot camp will be held September 13th and 14th and October 18th and 19th of this year. Clients will also receive fee-waived registrations to the Next Innovation Conference, which we collaborate also with Syracuse University Science and Technology Law Center, the Center for Advanced Systems and Engineering, and TDO. This conference will be held November 15th. And we also initiated a memorandum of understanding with Center State CEO Business Development, Kingston, Ontario Business Development, and Queen's University. In that respect, we promote collaborative projects across our regions. It's called the Kingston Syracuse Pathway, and we've developed several opportunities so far. We have a GU opportunity coming up this week. It's in our Clayton Summit, which we host usually in the spring and the fall. Next slide. Our success story, from my own personal opinion, is our Medical Device Innovation Challenge. We wrote a grant to Empire State Development, and we were awarded the 5-year grant, and that grant helps to support this program as well as the boot camp and the next conference. We wanted to develop something to initiate medical device startup company acceleration from the early discovery stage. So we vet applications that we receive on an annual basis. We have a medical device review committee that will interview selected applications, and we will choose the participants that will receive 6 months free space in our creation garage. They also receive intensive mentorship. Each of the teams has 1 to 2 mentors assigned to them. We hold milestone meetings monthly. They have access to equipment and resources such as our 3D printer. And then we have a pitch program at the end of the session. The 3 companies noted here are our 2017 are 3 of our 5 graduates. EndoGlow was just awarded a Jeff Lawrence Innovation Fund manufacturing grant with their patent partner, University of Rochester, and they'll soon be conducting clinical trials for clinical evidence data to support their regulatory submission for their product, Green Egg, which is a fluorescent medical device that aids in robotic-assisted surgery. Costello Prosthetics, this was founded by amputee and pipe fitter Brian Costello, who suffered poor circulation in his stump. We connected him with Queen's University Human Mobility Center through a capstone student project. They finalized his working prototype, and they also linked him up with amputee Kirstie Ennis, who is, I think, right this moment, climbing Denali, and she's going to give us quite a bit of feedback on pilot testing of his heat sleeve prototype. Simpler Links is a nurse team from upstate, and they determined there was an unmet need for dwell time tracking and prevention of shearing force while working in the ICU. Their Foley catheter securement device will soon be utilized in clinical trials within Upstate's hemodialysis department, again, for regulatory submission. Next slide. This is my contact information if anyone has any questions. Our mission, first and foremost, is to offer support and infrastructure to biotech-related innovators. Whether their questions, need to license a lab, are seeking a research partner, we do not compete with other incubators or accelerators. If there's a better fit elsewhere, we want to be able to help that startup get to the best fit. Our resolve is to continue to grow and support our innovation ecosystem. We'd like to bring in more investment interests, open up avenues to job creation and retention, and sustain a thriving biotech innovation culture. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. And if anybody has questions for Kathy, again, you can use your GoToWebinar control panel to submit questions that we'll get to a little bit later. Our next speaker is John Bleho from the City University of New York, where he directs the Hub for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and he's joined by Arbor Rucci today as well. John and Arbor.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for listening in. I'm John Bleho, and I have Arbor here with me. We're the points of contact for the New York City Innovation Hotspot, and our contact information will be on the last slide. Next slide, please, Allison. So our Innovation Hotspot mainly serves medical device and IoT startups, but because we're based on 125th Street in Upper Manhattan, we also do a significant amount of community-based outreach, and we work with companies in the community. Perhaps our biggest asset for those listening on the webinar is that we really do a true hub and spoke model where the hotspot serves as the hub, and we have partnerships with over 30 incubators in the New York City and greater New York area. Many of them are certified incubators, such as we have an MOU with SUNY Downstate, which is very similar to what Kathy just talked about at SUNY Upstate. We also have collaborations with incubators that are in fashion, in food, as well as in the life sciences. We're a standard incubator. We have 7,000 square feet. We have an advanced manufacturing space. Perhaps another asset that we have is that we serve as the portal of entry into the City University of New York, which has a significant footprint throughout New York City. And we have a lot of assets on all the campuses at CUNY. So if you're a company and you're based in Brooklyn or the Bronx and you need some technical work, we could be your point of contact. And I'd just like to point out our Advanced Science Research Center. That is located literally 3 blocks from our incubator. And it is a high-end core facility. There is microscopy, spectroscopy, including NMR, and most importantly, a very large nanofabrication facility. So if any of the companies that are listening in are doing nanofab work, we actually are the point of contact where we could set you up with that. Being part of CUNY, we bring student internships, and as Kathy mentioned, we also do Startup New York. One of the important things that we do is entrepreneurship training, and we offer several variations of the Innovation Core model. That's what the National Science Foundation uses as their training program. And we also work with the New York City Regional Innovation Node to fast track teams that are interested in getting NSF SBIR Phase 1 grants in a program which is called SBIR Phase 0. I know this is a lot of content and a lot of detail. If anyone has any questions about any of this, please contact us after the webinar. Next slide, Allison. And just to give everyone a sense of the types of companies that we work with, I wanted to briefly give you a case study about a company called Shade. Shade really reflects the type of companies that we work with. Their tagline is a medical grade wearable ultraviolet sensor. It's based on a technology that comes out of the Weill Cornell Medical Center. They have been supporting themselves since they joined our incubator by a combination of revenue. So you could actually go online and buy this device yourself. And they're doing reasonably well just from that method. But in order for them to scale, they're also doing federal government contract work. So right now they have an active contract with NCI looking at high-risk patients on chemotherapy. These are individuals who are immunocompromised and that are high risk for sensitivity to ultraviolet light. Arbor reminded me just a few minutes ago that they also just won in December of 2017 a brand new SBIR Phase 1 from the NSF. And the goal there, and this is something that we definitely encouraged them and assisted them with, was to increase the sensitivity of their detectors. And that's the sort of thing that the NSF is very interested in. So again, if you're a company that's in the medical device space or in the wearable space, this is our sweet spot. So we definitely can assist you in getting non-diluted funding, helping you with revenue-based models in order to launch your company. And I think I'll stop there, Allison, if you could just put the contact up. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you, John and Arbor. Appreciate it. And as the webinar closes, I'll show everybody's contact information again. Next, we're going to hear from Jim Sinal of NextCore. They are located in the Finger Lakes.
Great. Thank you, Allison. And good morning, everybody. As Allison said, my name is Jim Sinal with NextCore, which is formerly known as High Tech Rochester. We just recently, a few months ago, changed our name and launched a new brand in association with opening a new headquarters facility that we're in right now. So I'll tell you a little bit about who we are and also the innovation hotspot here in our region. If you could go to the next slide, please, Allison. So NextCore actually operates a number of programs, all of which are aimed at helping entrepreneurs launch new companies, but also some that are targeted at existing businesses and helping them increase revenue and profitability. So on the incubation front, we have a 50,000 square foot facility called the Lennox Tech Enterprise Center, which has been operating for over 20 years. And we just recently opened our new facility, which is 40,000 square feet, $13 million build out, right in the middle of downtown Rochester. It's the center of what's now known as a downtown innovation zone. And it includes a combination of many things: offices, wet labs, makerspace, co-working areas, et cetera, including a pretty wonderful rooftop patio, which on a day like today is probably coveted. But in addition to incubation space, we operate growth services. We are a MEP center for the Rochester Finger Lakes region. We have a clean tech early stage accelerator and proof of concept center called Nexus. We have our $5 million a year Illuminate accelerator program for optics and photonics companies, and a few others. Next slide, please. And so the innovation hotspot is really a partnership between our incubation activities and with RIT's Venture Creations Incubator. And so we jointly manage that program for the Finger Lakes region. Companies are eligible for the benefits of the Hotspot program if they are in one of our various incubators, or if they're not in an incubator, we have kind of a low-level non-resident membership, which allows them access to the benefits. And here in the Finger Lakes region, the Hotspot program really supports, I'll call it, kind of general incubation activities, which can be staff, entrepreneurs, and residents that are providing coaching and mentoring, other outside mentors, running workshops and programs, sometimes some micro grants to allow startups to get some projects completed and help offset the cost of those. There are, of course, the tax benefits for the Innovation Hotspot, which provides 5 years of no New York State taxes for eligible companies. And we also operate, we also try to help coordinate all the other regional activities in the startup realm and the startup ecosystem. We have a monthly meeting, which is really driven through our Economic Development Council work group, where all the players in this ecosystem get together on a monthly basis, and we've been doing that for years. And we have also put together a region-wide web portal, which can help list all these incubators, funding sources, accelerators, co-working spaces, and aggregate news about the startup ecosystem so that everyone can kind of get a quick sense for the pulse of what's going on, and that's supported through the Hotspot. Next slide, please. And so just one example of an interesting company, and I like it because it's kind of a different example. It's not university-related technology, but General Motors actually operated their global fuel cell research and development center here in our region just outside Rochester for many years, and then a couple of years ago decided they were going to shut that down and try to relocate folks back to Detroit. What they learned was a lot of folks didn't want to go back to Detroit, but there were a lot of folks affected, and some of them decided to form startup companies, one of which was a company called American Fuel Cell, started by 3 of the guys from GM. They went through the Nexus Accelerator program. They participated in some EIR coaching and mentoring, got some seed funding from one of New York State's fund of funds, worked with our MEP Center on prototyping product development, which they also leveraged some local assets and resources for roll-to-roll manufacturing. Got some revenues, and then announced just about a week or so ago that they've been acquired by Plug Power, and that all happened in probably a 1.5 to 2 year time frame. So a lot of resources that the regional ecosystem helps bring to bear to get them to a successful outcome. Next slide, please. So that's a little bit in a nutshell of who we are, what we do. The Innovation Hotspot contacts are shown on the screen, myself at NextCore and Rich Notar-Giacomo at RIT Venture Creations. And of course, we'd be happy to help answer questions at the end of the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. A reminder that you can continue submitting questions into the GoToWebinar control panel. And we're happy to be joined by Brad Treat of the Southern Tier Startup Alliance, representing the incubation activities in the Southern Tier of New York.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the webinar. My name is Brad Treat. I'm one of the entrepreneurs and residents for the Southern Tier Startup Alliance. Next slide, please. The Southern Tier is an 8-county region, central New York. You can see the grid there. One of the things I like to point out, the stars highlight some of the, we'll call them pockets of entrepreneurial activities throughout the region. Part of the reason we chose the name Southern Tier Startup Alliance as opposed to Hotspot, we are part of the Hotspot program, but we found that it was a little confusing to call an 8-county region a hotspot. So what we found is that there's really interesting pockets around the region. And so these are oftentimes self-organizing groups that we help support with the champion. And we provide to them resources, consulting, education, lots of things like that. One of the physical features we have in the area is our incubators. So next slide, please. So we currently have 5 active incubators in the region. We're about to announce our 6th one later this summer. And so maybe I'll step through these in the order in which they're listed. So the first one is called REV, Ithaca Startup Works. That's based in Ithaca, New York. That's very much a general space. There's currently 37 companies in that incubator. One of the things that sets that place apart is, one, it doesn't have formal offices, so the whole place is a flexible workspace, which makes it very dynamic because it can be switched from a workspace to presentation space extremely quickly. It also has a rapid prototyping lab, so we have multiple 3D printers, laser cutters, laser etchers, all around this concept of, if you have an idea for a product, rapidly prototype concepts, get them in customers' hands, get that customer feedback, and continue to iterate. So using this extremely customer-centric model. The next incubator I'd like to highlight in our region is the McGovern Center for Life Sciences. This is on Cornell's campus. This one's very specific for companies that need those extra resources that life sciences companies need, the beakers and the fume hoods and the controlled disposal and a lot of these sorts of things. And that center is specifically designed for it. There's currently 13 companies in there. They tend to be extremely high tech, but one of the things that's also happening here is, by having that opportunity there on campus, is some of the research that's developed in the region is staying in the region. Over in the Corning Paint and Post region is Incubator Works. Incubator Works is actually our oldest incubator. They just celebrated their 30-year anniversary. Historically, they've been focused on material science with a strong connection to Corning Incorporated. They since have separated and broken off from that and have much less reliance on Corning. And we've had some very interesting companies come out of there, particularly some companies that are material science based. They also run a unique program there called VETS. So this is a veteran entrepreneurship group. So entrepreneurs who are, veterans who want to start their own business, turns out the same training that makes you a good service member also makes you a good entrepreneur, and being preparedness and reactive and understanding the needs works really well. That's a great group. I'll also highlight Incubator Works is they're running a program out of Elmira that is also a community organized group that gets together on a regular basis to learn about entrepreneurship and talk about entrepreneurship and be very reactive there. The next physical space I want to highlight is on Binghamton University's campus. So it's called the Startup Suite. So Binghamton University is technically in Vestal, New York, so a little bit outside the actual city of Binghamton. And they, in their high tech expansion, they created a space in the center of it for the startup companies to go and do their work. Most of those companies have a connection to Binghamton Research, but some of them are simply there to access some of Binghamton's high quality facilities. And then last but not least, the newest incubator in our region is the Kaufman Southern Tier Incubator, just opened in April of 2017. This was also funded through the governor's office. They have an emphasis on clean energy. And so you don't have to be clean energy, but that's certainly one of the highlights there. Their entire building is designed around being sustainable and clean. One of the things they were boasting is that their January heat bill was something like $14 because they were so capable of harnessing the residual heat from the environment. So if I can get the next slide. So this is currently the outlook of the sort of the distribution of companies and incubators. These are only companies and incubators. We, throughout the region, have engaged with over 1,100 active entrepreneurs who are working on something entrepreneurial. So we find that this is an extremely entrepreneurial region. One of the things we heard from those entrepreneurs is we need help navigating the landscape for raising money. So if I can get the next slide. So we took a real deep dive effort into this and said, okay, how can we help these companies raise money? There's a conventional wisdom that nobody will invest in upstate New York. We need to move our business out to Silicon Valley or New York City or Boston or something. We actually were able to, with a lot of connections, understand there was a lot of deal activity going on. Much of it was not being captured. And there was also sometimes a very small but crossable gap between fundability and getting the deal closed. So with 2017, we focused on let's see about how we can actually fund these companies. We were able to identify that there are 96 investors who have been active in the region in the past 8 years, and looked at what the types of deals they were doing. And we found that the investors in the region are not geographically focused, they're actually industry focused. And that allowed us to target our fundraising efforts towards specific industry vertical investors. So we closed out 2017 advising on 23 deals. These are 23 deals that closed. As you can see there, the deals raised a combined $23.9 million. That represented 29 unique investors And one of the things we're quite proud of is 18 of those investors had never invested in the Southern Tier region before. And so one of the good examples of that is probably the next company, Ursa. So using them as a highlight. So next slide, please. A highlight for the effect of the region. Ursa is a company that does analysis of satellite radar imagery. So what that means is there's a bunch of satellites up in space that are looking back at the Earth, and they take radar imagery, and that radar imagery can be used for all sorts of things, from understanding how much oil there is, determining how many cars are being offloaded into the different ports, and there's also multiple military applications. Ursa was actually founded by a Cornell alum who had graduated and moved out to Silicon Valley, was working for L'Oreal, which is a top satellite company out there, had an idea for a new business, came back to Ithaca to meet with his faculty advisor. And while he was here, he learned about the different resources in the region and said, hey, this looks like a great place to start a company. And oh, by the way, my wife and I are looking to start a family, and Silicon Valley is painfully expensive. So Adam moved here. So he started a company and started a family at the same time. He was able to do that just because the cost of living and the resources here were so supportive of that. He brought with him the guy who used to be his boss at L'Oreal. And then we were able, through our contacts, to help him build out his team. They built out their business plan, worked with him extensively, connected him to our investor network, specifically people who invest in this industry. And one of those venture capitalists who came out of our Rolodex initially said, hey, once we close this funding round, we're probably going to need to move the company. This is a Washington, D.C. based venture capitalist. As they got to know us and the business, they said, this is a great place to start a company. We should be moving more companies to the region, not away from it. So to date, Ursa has raised $10 million in financing. They're in the process of raising another round right now because their last round was so oversubscribed. They are currently hiring at the rate of 1 to 2 people per week. So the CEO had to move out of his office to make room for all the new people. And this, again, where the incubators have been useful for Ursa is, as they needed overflow space, they were actually able to put people back in the incubator. And now they're in the process of moving into what was the soon-to-be vacated space for the Ithaca Tompkins County History Museum. And that History Museum is moving to a more high-traffic area. So kind of an interesting experience there. So next slide. So yeah, again, my name is Brad Tree. Here's my contact information. Feel free to contact me. If you want to know about the companies here, some of our great success stories, and how we can help people get into incubators, connect them to capital. And we actually have a new problem, which maybe some of the people on the call can help us with, is many of these companies that have raised money, the primary use of those funds is hiring. And so we have multiple companies who are actively hiring people. So if you ever wanted to go and work on a startup, we'd certainly like to talk to you as well. I think to date, we have our advised companies have created over 249 new jobs, and there's other Ursa's hiring a person a day. There's a couple other companies that are on very aggressive hiring schedules, and we'd like to connect you to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Our next presenter is, last but not least, thank you, Fab KC, for joining us from the Tech Valley Center of Gravity.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome you for the last time. Thank you again for getting on the call. My name is Fab KC. I'm the president of IMC and the Incubator Program Director at the Tech Valley Center of Gravity. We are one of Empire State's newest funded incubators, located in the Capital Region and part of the Innovate 518 approved partner group. Next slide, please, Allison. So our manufacturing incubator is located in the Tech Valley Center of Gravity. It's one of the largest maker spaces in New York State at about 10,000 square feet. The facility, since it got founded around 5 years ago, has always been focused on supporting businesses. We've had dozens of companies that have been involved in the organization and are either still here or moved on. When we did take a good look at what was available in the state as well as in our region, found that there was a lot of great business support. As you've heard during the call today, there's a lot of good business incubators that are out there running lean startups and a lot of different coaching and support programs. We decided to focus on something product startups. that needed help with the technical side of their business, the engineering and operations side of getting their business off the ground. The program we've rolled out is a one-on-one coaching program. So you can come in at any point and any time. It's one-on-one sit-down sessions with you and your team. We do focus on physically manufactured products. As you'll see, the Tech Valley Center of Gravity is a great space to make things. So we've maintained that focus. The business incubator itself works with pretty much any startup or inventor that needs help with some engineering expertise. And what that means is things like design for manufacturability, prototyping strategy, and really how to train and how to develop your team to function like a manufactured product business. How do you do product definition? How do you manage your supply chain? How do you make your product and control the quality and maintain your costs? We are open to the public and independent 501c3, available for anyone from the community to come in. We have everything from high school kids all the way up to retirees and everything in between. Next slide, please. So the whole Tech Valley Center of Gravity is geared around one concept: people learning by doing, making things with their hands. So you have a maker space here. We've got the typical 3D printers and laser cutters that you see, but we also have some advanced equipment, fully equipped wood shop, welding shop, machine shop, industrial sewing, and electronics work zones. Plenty of space for people to learn, tinker, have fun. One of our newest focuses has been development, design, and outfitting of a prototyping center. This one's a little unique. There are other prototyping centers in the state. This one allows the startups themselves to do the work. So we have some advanced equipment, a high-end 3D printer, a laser cutter, vac forming, CNC router, where we train the startups on how to run the gear themselves, charge them a small nominal fee for that use, and allow them to, again, learn by doing, learn how to prototype their product, learn how to do initial stage manufacturing, make some products that they can sell to their customers and get some revenue going at a fundamentally lower cost than if they were to outsource at that early stage. We also have a lot of options for space rental. $2 a square foot downstairs. You can rent to store materials, store your tools, store your products, do final test and inspect. Office space available upstairs that you can rent for only $2.50 a square foot. And our membership structure is exceptionally affordable, ranging from $50 to $150 a month. So next slide. If you have any questions, we would love helping startups that are looking to make a physical product. So if you're an inventor or startup and you got an idea and want to bring your product to market, please get in touch with us.
Thank you, Thad. Okay, so those were, you heard just now from 5 of the New York State Certified Business Incubators and Innovation Hotspots. I mentioned that there are actually 30 of them around the state that receive Empire State Development support. You can find the full list of those at esd.ny.gov/certified-business-incubator. And you'll have, there's links to all the organizations that provide these services. I mean, this network of support has really created a culture of innovation and success around the state, thanks to the ground level services that these people provide and make a dramatic difference in a startup company's next steps. Now, given how many organizations there are that can provide this support, and some of them have different industry focuses, different, as you heard, different capabilities, equipment, et cetera. If you don't know where to start, FuzeHub is a great place to start. You can go to www.fuzehub.com and submit a very simple form, and we will work with you to understand what your company's needs are, and we make it our business to know what resources would be a best fit for you around the state to work with. So if you've heard things today that make you think your company can benefit from engaging with an incubator, these panelists stand ready to assist you in getting engaged. What I really liked about today's presentations was there's such a diversity of models, of assistance, different kinds of networks, depending on what industry your company is, what stage of development your company is in. And I also wanted to highlight that This is a series of webinars that FuzeHub has hosted highlighting different Empire State Development programs that support the innovation economy. Obviously, the hotspots and incubators are focused on serving startup companies. We've also done webinars that you can find on the FuzeHub website, the recordings and slides, covering programs like our Centers for Advanced Technology, our Centers of Excellence at University Research Centers, also the Manufacturing Extension Partnership Program that provides support to small and mid-sized manufacturers, and a handful of other webinars. So thank you for tuning in today. There will be, the slides will be made available, as will the recording. And I just wanted to ask, in closing, one question we got through the portal. What trends are you seeing in companies' needs and startup companies' needs in New York State? And feel free to jump in, any of our panelists.
Hi, this is Brad. I could answer that question, Katie. One of the needs I'm now seeing is they're looking for skilled labor, so people who are knowledgeable in certain areas or are open to learning about them. There are some sort of baselines. There's a lot of folks who want to have some basic computer skills. On the other area we're seeing a lot of interest is we'll call it sales and customer service. So being able to interact directly with the customers and being comfortable doing that using remote technologies.
Thanks, Brad. Anybody else want to jump in on that?
Sure, this is Kathy. It is stage dependent where they are in their commercialization process. So if they're early stage, what we're seeing a lot of is that there is a real need to develop a team that's going to be able to push the product through the commercialization process. So we're seeing that with our early discovery folks. Folks that are in incubation, they need the money. Where's the money? How do they find the money? We point them in the direction to SBR, STTR, any type of competitions, any type of accelerators that provide investment. We're actually working ourselves and trying to develop investment vehicles. And then for folks that are almost ready to graduate, this is where we want to make sure that they're taking full advantage of any of those tax benefits if they're employing, matching them. If as you've heard all of the other folks today say, companies are seeking skilled, experienced employees. And I know MedTech, for one, is working on helping to match folks up to positions with companies that are in the membership.
So Allison, this is John in New York. If I could just say one quick one.
Sure.
For the companies that are on the phone and are thinking about joining an incubator, I would say the biggest challenge that we've been seeing is when you get your first manufacturing order and how to position yourself to be able to place that order. That's where we're really putting a lot of our energy and working with the startups to be sure that they have the money and the understanding with working with their contract manufacturer on how to place orders, really starting to ship product. That's a big challenge. And I don't know about the other incubators, but this is becoming a bit of a challenge in downstate. So this is a trend that I've seen. I don't know if it's the maturation of the companies that people are being more successful and they're getting to that point that they're getting large orders. But it's definitely a change. It's a change in mindset. It's beyond team building. It's actually now getting into the execution, transitioning into the execution phase of the company. And that's where we're putting our energy right now. So good luck.
Thanks, John. That does sound like one of those good problems to have. All right, I want to close by mentioning one more competition on the landscape. FuzeHub itself will host a commercialization competition in November. I'm sorry I don't have a slide about this, but you can find out more information at FuzeHub.com. That's an annual commercialization competition in which pre-revenue startup companies in certain technology and manufacturing industries compete basically come do live pitches to compete for a number of $50,000 awards that, and those funds then are spent advancing their commercialization plans. So do check that out if you yourself are a startup company that's interested, or you know somebody who could be a good candidate for that. I want to thank all our presenters today and all our participants for joining us, and going to give you 13 minutes of your morning back. Thank you so much.